Thanks for joining us for our sunsets and silhouettes. Grab your palette with your black, blue, red, white, and yellow primary colors. If you have other colors you want to throw in, go ahead. Next, you're going to grab a water with paintbrushes. I've got a small paintbrush, a pretty big one, and a couple medium-sized brushes, a flat and pointy. You don't need all of those, but whatever works for you. And you want a plain blank plate to mix on. All right, let's get started. First, I'm going to grab my yellow and go right in the center of my canvas. Notice I'm pulling out the paint on the edges, so it's kind of a streaky look. I'm going in with these straight lines, and I kind of go in the middle. It's okay that it's broken up, so you could always pause there and do something similar. Next, I'm going to make an orangish color with lots of yellow, a little red. Blend that together. There you go. Now I'm going to come from the edges of the canvas and kind of start coming in towards the yellow in these little streak-like strokes. Think of them as like little wispy orange clouds in that sunset. And they're kind of going into some of the yellow itself, but also thinking about coloring in a lot of that white that's kind of peering through, a lot of that white canvas. It goes up. We've even got some orange clouds in the middle, which we can just dab in and pretty much just scribble in. Great. Again, you can always pause, so it's easier to follow. Next, I'm going to take this blank area, throw a little red on there, and a nice big scoop of white. And why not throw a little yellow in there to give it that peach-like color? Mix those three to get a nice sunset-like pink. There we go. So I'm going to go in and start adding clouds that are puffy and that kind of thin out. And remember, they're kind of cut off on the side. So puffy, and they go thin. Same here, we dab on the color, up and down motions. And they kind of are thicker in the middle, and they get a lot thinner at the edge. A lot of clouds do. I'm gonna place them where I want. And remember to always cut off. You don't want it to stop by the edge of the canvas. You want it to go all the way off the canvas. I'm even going to throw in some little streaky ones that I can blend with either my finger or brush. And they're softer that way. They kind of blend out. And I can add those again wherever I'd like. I enjoy adding them on the side, like a kind of framing the sunset. These top ones are now going to start pointing down at an angle, starting from upward, pointing down. Now I'm going to add a couple. I want to run out of paint so that they're a lot lighter as I go in front of the yellow. You could see they look lighter because there's less paint on them. So running out of paint is a good thing. Next, I'm going to take some blue and add that to my pink. And I want to leave some of my pink handy if I can. If not, I could just remake it. So there I get a purple. I can add a little more red to it. Play with it a little bit until I get the purple I want, which purple is just blue and red, and I always add white, so usually red, white, and blue, until you get the right color that you want. Then I'll go in and just add color to that on the top, and I'm just dabbing in these great big purple clouds that again are pointing downward. They go down like this at an angle. Down like that at an angle. And they get a little thinner at the edge, just like the pink clouds, so they're thicker at top. At the edge, you get a little thinner. It's okay that they kind of go over and overlap some of that pink. Now I'm going to do kind of like a U-shaped cloud here, and then add little bits throughout. Ta-da! Again, you can pause there if you need. Great, now I'm like getting rid of some of that purple so it's kind of see-through, so that when I go on, there's just real light shades of purple. So I get rid of the paint before I even go on it, so there's only a tiny bit of paint on my brush, and I start adding little light clouds to make it look natural, and I blend out the edges of that purple. Awesome. And feel free to pause as much as you'd like. Now I'm going to take some of that purple and I'm going to add some clouds to the bottom area. These tumbling clouds at the bottom. Now your sunset could always be different than mine. There's no wrong way to do it. There's so many different types of sunset. So you really don't have to match it perfectly. You can take some of what I show you and kind of go with your own thing. It's totally fine. So again, I'm filling in that bottom area, not all the way down, but just doing a big, beautiful purple cloud, these like beautiful storm clouds. Kind of framing that beautiful glow. Notice my clouds are now going up on the side, so they're not this perfect straight line of clouds. Ta-da! Good job, I'm sure you're doing awesome. Great, now we still got some white in there. What are we gonna do with that? Well, let's have a little of the regular sky peeking through, and sometimes in sunsets you can see that. So let's make a light blue with a white and blue. And you can adjust it as you like, more blue, more white, it's totally up to you. I'm gonna add a little more white, lighten it up a lot. Great, there we go. Now I got a nice light blue color. And I'm gonna add the tiniest bit of black to dull that color out. So it's not too bright baby blue, so it looks a little more like a natural sky color. And I am going to color in that white just by dabbing it in. I'm not worrying about mixing in a little bit with the purple. It's totally fine. So I'm dabbing that color in. There we go, and covering up any little bit of canvas that might be showing through. But I'm also going to take some of my purple and repeat a couple steps and add a little bit of clouds, also kind of overlapping that blue, which makes it look a lot more natural and easy to blend. Now I'm going to clean my brush off, grab a pointy brush, paper towel just to clean off any excess color. And I'm going to go in with some pure white. I take a little extra off just so it's not too thick. And I'm going to lightly sweep back and forth and grab as much paint as you need. Lightly sweep back and forth so that there's a sweet light glow. And it's okay if it doesn't come off really white. It could be a pale yellow or it could come off really white. Just depends on what kind of sunset you're going for. But that'll add a nice glow in the center of your sky. So anytime you want to paint a glow, adding a little white to the center that fades out is probably a good idea. There we go. And again, I can layer that as it starts to dry little by little. You don't want it to be a complete orb, although that might be nice, but I could blend the edges just like that with my finger. Keeping the middle nice and white and blending the edges out into the sunset. I'm going to make a little more purple here, dark purple. I want the purple to be different than my sky purple. That's the main point. Added a little black to it, a little more red, and I just keep overlapping with red, blue, and a tiny bit of black. Not too much black. A little, if you went with a lot of black, honestly, it wouldn't look bad in this case. So I'm adding a lot of red to this purple because I like how a really red mountain looks in the sunset. And you can see I'm going up and going at an angle, not straight up and down. They're kind of moving to the side gradually. There we go. Like I like to tell my little kids, think of a plane taking off and landing. It doesn't go straight up like a rocket ship. It goes to the angle, like a plane slowly taking off. Awesome, and now we add this bottom area, bottom of the mountain. It's okay to make mistakes in your mountain because you could reshape them, as you can see I did. I wanted them bigger on either side. And now I just color that in. And you want to go on thick. The more layers we're adding to this painting, you want to be thicker and thicker, especially if you do it in one sitting. Now I'm adding in different colors. I'm adding in another dark purple. I can add a little black in there. I can add a little blue, a little red, whatever, straight colors from my palette or colors I already made. So I'm liking adding a little bit of black to that to keep them nice and dark. Tall silhouettes with shadows cast from that sunset. Now, my easy part, color the bottom all black. Pretty easy. Now here, you're gonna see later that I actually fixed it a little bit. You can actually bring your mountain down a little bit further. Not the biggest deal if you don't, but I actually brought the mountain down a little further after this part once I started thinking about what I wanted for a silhouette a little bit harder. Just so you know, so you can make the black part a little smaller than I'm making here. All right, okay, go ahead and color that in. Great, now you can see I brought that mountain down like I talked about. And I'm even gonna go in with some lighter purple. This is optional. I'm not worried about even grabbing some other color in. And I'm gonna lightly sweep up towards the top of the mountain. Just gives like a little bit of like a contrast or like a mist to the mountain, which makes it a little fancy. And taking a dry brush to kind of dab in that middle part so it doesn't look like a perfect line. It looks like it nicely blends into that dark purple. That's optional if you want to try to be fancy and try something different. And so I'm going in and I'm just adding some texture to my mountains, some thick paint, a little bit of the darker color, bringing that into the light color, and just kind of playing with the mountains and blending some colors in together. Now, if you're happy with how your mountains came out and you're like, I don't want to blend, it's totally fine. But you could kind of watch and see some of the techniques I'm using to make a misty looking mountain. Again, that's a lighter white and purple from the bottom. So a light purple will be a lot of white, a little red, and a little blue. Great. Now I'm going to grab a very thin brush with some thick paint. And I'm going to roll it on the side to keep my brush nice and pointy, okay? This keeps my brush at a point and not too globby, because now I'm sketching. Now, if you want, you can use a pencil for this part after your painting dries, if you'd prefer, if you're more comfortable. That way you can erase in case there are any mistakes. I'm going to draw it with my pencil though, so it's totally up to you. So I'm starting from within the black area, and I'm going up at kind of like a pear shape or a teardrop shape, so it's a lot thicker at the bottom, but not quite a teardrop because it doesn't kind of completely meet at the top. So I'm going right there towards the bottom. You can see that's going to be the little hind area of the dog. Color that in, so almost again like a pear shape or like a teardrop without the point. Now I'm going to go out on either side. Okay, kind of like a U, but with a top to it. Like an oval at the top for his head. Next I'm going to go in and do this little line on the side. Goes up. And then a little line down. Doesn't have to be exactly like mine. And the line that first went up is more like a triangle. Same here, nice thick line, kind of like a square rectangle. And then a thin line that goes down. So we've got two little ears there. So this is what I chose. I chose dogs, but you might choose something else. Great. Next we have the little dog next to it. So we've got just a little circle. And these ears are a little different. They just turn they curve down to the side. He has more floppy ears. Well, they both kind of do, but this one's kind of look like my dog's. Awesome. So now you've got this little, his body, which kind of comes down again in like kind of like a pear shape, but he's a puppy, so he's a little wider, more like a teardrop, and he's smaller. Now I'm going to make a kind of like a grayish color, so I take a little white mixed in with my black to make a gray. You can see that there. And I am going to outline a little bit. And so you could see where his little paw is, or his hind leg, and where you can see where he starts and ends when he's in that black area. This is optional. If you like it the way it was, you do not have to do this. This just allows the viewer to see that, hey, that's where the dog's sitting, and we can see a little bit of that part in contrast to the background. Again, it's optional though. If you want to keep it black, that's totally fine. Again, a great time to pause and just, take your time on these parts. Now I'm going in with a little bit of pure white. This you have to be really brave to do. If you're like, no, I'm good, you don't have to. And the pure white is just adding a little bit more of an accent on the sides, so we could really see where our pups are sitting. And you can add that in different areas. I'm adding it throughout his coat, throughout their coats, and we'll even add it on the top, like right up here by his head. Just little small accents and little streaks throughout. Again, that's optional. And you don't want it to look too perfect. They're just light strokes that you kind of glide through. I took some black to thin that out because I thought it looked too dominant. So I took a little black, and I'm going to kind of go over with a little black. Great thing is if you mess up with any of the white, it's so easy to cover with black. So that way I got a little bit of highlight. Now I'm going to come up here on the side with some black and my thin brush. And I'm going to start off thick and go up really thin. You could see the branches that I'm going to do here, so you could watch and try on your own. So the branches that are inward are always like the closest to the trunk are going to be thicker, and as they reach the sky, they get thinner. And you could see that as on the trunk as well. The closest to the ground is thicker, gets thinner as it reaches to the sky. And you don't have to do it exactly like mine, but you could always pause if you need like a reference. And just remember that they get thicker towards the bottom and thinner as they go out. Here we're adding the leaves, and I'm just going in with little dabs, little dots. They don't have to be connected to anything. Look at mine, they're floating in the sky, surrounding them. And some of them are gonna kind of overlap each other. You don't want them to be polka dots, they're leaves, they're kind of messy. They overlap each other. They don't say, excuse me, pardon me, leaf. They're always overlapping each other. And you could see I wanted to kind of frame my canvas, and it's going out towards the middle. So now I'm even kind of dabbing over some of the branches. I kind of want to be overlapping the branches and overlapping the leaves. Some are floating out. Some I want to be bunched up together in big bunches. As you can see, not perfect circles, but a big bunch of leaves. You can see that. Now I'm adding even like little extra small twigs leading out to some of those bunches. Not all of them. So add that bunch there. Come in and add a branch if I want. See? I don't have to though. Some could just be floating out, as you can see some of my leaves are. And I can add as little or as many as I'd like until I shape the tree the way I want. I could stop and take a look and say, okay, I want to add this, I want to add it here, it's too skinny here. Take your time. Again, a great place to pause. Oh, here's a great technique. If you have a wiry brush or a sponge of some sort, something that makes kind of like crazy strokes like that, I can actually go in and use it as a stamp to even fill in more space. This is called a chip brush, and it's really great for things like this. So I'm actually using it almost more like a stamp to get in these nice full leaves. Awesome. Again, a great place to pause if you need it for reference. Great. Next, I'm going to come up on this side and add grass. So the secret with grass is I push down a little more towards the bottom and I lift up as I go towards the top. Okay, and they overlap. Some are shorter, some are longer. And I'm just starting again from the bottom. And you don't have to go as fast as me. You can go slower. I've been painting grass for a very long time. So remember, put a little bit more pressure from the bottom, and as you go up, lift your hand. You could always practice on a sheet or a blank plate before you try. And I'm going to add just little bushes to the side here. This is adding to my foreground. These are nice thick, full bushes in my foreground. And as I get close to the puppies, I want to make sure I start making shorter grass because I am the artist and I can do that so that it does not cover my main subject. And I just bring the grass down a little here so it naturally and nicely frames my puppies. There we go. Great. And you could do as much or as little as you'd like. Notice some are pointing in different directions or overlapping. They're not perfect. They're kind of messy the way that Mother Nature is. And there you go. Here's another little thing you can add with the tiny brush. Barely push down if I'm brave. I could add a couple birds in flight. Some are really tiny, some are larger. The larger they are, the closer they are. Notice some are in a different direction. They're not all flying the exact same way. Some are kind of catching a different wind, and they're to the side. So I hope you enjoyed painting with me and creating with me. Remember to follow OTB Arts on Facebook and OTB_Arts on Instagram. Thanks for creating with me.